Okay, in this video we're going to show how to install the new Burr mounting system into an old Handground coffee grinder. We're also going to make sure that's calibrated correctly, and we're going to be taking the grinder fully apart, so if you ever happen to do so, whether it's to clean the grinder thoroughly or replace the hopper or other such part, this video will help you to do so. So the first step we're going to do is to take out the old Burr mounting system. Now, you can see here, the old Burr mounting system has a metal thumb nut that holds the inner burr onto the axle. The easiest way to remove the thumb nut is to hold the grinder and the handle so that the axle will not spin while you try to turn and unloosen the thumb nut. Great. Now, the new Burr mounting system comes with this hex tool, which we also included with every grinder originally, to remove these 3 screws, which we will have to do to open up the grinder. Okay, at this point you need to be a little bit careful because the spring is going to want to push all the parts apart, and you will know what I mean when you get to this point. So as you pull the body of the grinder apart, there are a number of pieces that are in this middle portion which may fall apart, and that's okay, we're about to take it apart. The hopper here you can now remove from the top cap. We can put the top cap aside, and in the hopper we have the axle, this 2mm spacer, and you see the spring right there. We're going to take all of these parts apart. In the middle section here we have the course adjustment ring. This is the stepper piece, as we call it. This is the steps piece that the stepper piece rides on to adjust the course setting. And in here we have the outer ceramic burr and this outer ring. We're going to go ahead and pop the burr out of the bottom ring and take the burr out of the steps piece. Now we can put aside the old parts, which are the inner burr, the outer burr, the thumb nut, and the old axle, but we're going to keep the spring, okay? So the first step to inserting the new Burr mounting system is to take the new outer burr, place it into the bottom body ring. Now these screws, sometimes they'll fall out or sometimes they kind of stay put. It's okay. Then we'll take the steps piece and insert it over the outer burr like so. And then the stepper piece sits right on top of the steps piece, so that the legs are on the outside, and you can see as you turn it, you get that clicking motion or feeling that you get when you change the course setting on Handground. Now we're going to take the course adjustment ring and place it over the steps piece, ensuring that the inlets here go over the pegs on the legs of the stepper piece. This is so that when you turn the ring, you're also turning the steps piece. So now we're ready to put the axle into the stepper piece. But before we do so, we included 2 calibration washers with the mounting system. These are 0.3mm or 300 micron spacers. They're very thin. There are 2 included with the set, but we suggest just using 1 at first. It is likely you will only need 1, and the other can be used if finer calibration is necessary for a finer grind. So the spacer goes onto the axle on this bottom portion here before you slide it onto the stepper piece here. Now we can take the spring that we kept from the old grinder, put it over the axle, and place the hopper over the axle, ensuring that the arrow on the hopper lines up with the numbers and the logo in front of the body of the grinder. The legs of the hopper, which are right here, should also line up with the screw holes in the steps piece. The spring will want to push the grinder apart, so you just have to hold it together. And now we can use the hex tool to tighten it all back up. The last step is to secure the inner burr. Now first, it's easiest to place the top cap back onto the grinder, just as before, so that we can hold the handle to keep the axle from spinning. Now the new burr has these 6 wings on the inside that the new black plastic inserts into to hold the burr and to also spin it while the axle turns. There's a metal threaded insert inside of this black plastic part that threads onto the axle. This actually allows us to get rid of the thumb nut that we previously had. I like to turn it to setting 8 to give some room while I turn and screw on the insert. And then just tighten it as hard as your grip can tighten it, and that's okay. Then we want to check for calibration. So the first thing I do is turn it to setting 2 and turn the handle. And do I hear any scraping? Not really. So then I turn to setting 1.5, and what we're looking for is maybe a little bit of burr touching at setting 1.5, and then maybe a more solid touch at setting 1. So here we're getting a pretty light touch at setting 1.5. We'll go to setting 1. So a little bit more solid. So this is pretty good. If you found that at setting 1 you were not getting any touching, then you could go back to where we had the grinder taken apart earlier and add this, here it is, additional spacer, which will actually move the inner burr up to make it closer to the outer burr, so that you can get a finer grind on the lower settings. And now we can place the grinder straight up on the counter on the burr and insert without the glass catcher attached. Before, we were unable to do this because the thumb nut was too small to stabilize the grinder while standing up top, and you had to either place the grinder on its side or on its top. But now you can remove the glass catcher after grinding, place the grinder nice and right up while pouring the grounds into your brewing device, and then put the grinder back together. And that's it.